Acast powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
What would you say if I told you there's a book that can teach you how to win The Bachelor?
What would you say if I told you producers caught multiple finalists reading that book in this season that's currently airing?
What would you say if I told you the producers don't want anyone to know that their show has been compromised?
How do we know all this? We wrote that book.
I'm Lizzie Pace.
And I'm Chad Kulchin.
We're the authors of How to Win the Bachelor and the hosts of the Game of Roses podcast, a bi-weekly podcast where we break down all the biggest plays, errors, and MVPs in the game of reality television.
Listen to Game of Roses wherever you get your podcasts and go to howtowinthebachelor.com to get our book.
Acast helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.
Hello, this is Cathy, and I'm here with my friend Graeme.
Hello.
Hi, Graeme. And you are listening to The Cinema, the podcast where my husband Dave and I walk home from the movies. But I'm not with Dave today, I'm with Graeme, and we're going to see Last Christmas.
Yes, we are. And we've heard lots of bad things about it.
Lots of bad things.
So I can't wait.
Yeah, I can't wait either, because I think it's going to be good.
I have expectations that are high, but,
Yeah.
I'm happy to eviscerate as well as to, celebrate. So we'll see how it goes.
And you suggested this movie, right?
Yes.
Why?
Yes. Well, I don't often go to the cinema, and I'm a massive lover of Christmas. And Dame Emma Thompson, for goodness sake.
Yeah, she wrote the story.
Yeah, so, let's give it a go.
Yeah.
I'm quite into the schmaltzy, the sentimental. I'm not afraid to get involved in the Christmas spirit. And also, I really quite like a really bad movie.
Yeah, so do
So
I.
I think on both levels it's going to work.
But I know there's been a lot of bad criticism, and I've tried not to read it to keep myself clear. Though I couldn't help but read the Guardian review that trashed it, which we both enjoyed sharing. But yeah, I think often this is a genre that can be discredited, particularly by male film critics. People can treat it harshly.
Anything that's even like emotional or sentimental, I think there's a tendency to think this is just rubbish by definition.
Yeah, and for women. But I also think the problem with this one is very specifically it's drawing parallels to Love Actually, which is because of Emma Thompson.
Of course. It could be a very worthy thing. I also hear that it's not as celebratory as perhaps it sounds. It's quite sad, and someone said, take your tissues.
Oh God, okay. Yeah, that was Sophie who we worked with. So yeah, I'm excited. They have Paul Feig who did Bridesmaids directing it, which is odd to me. Emma Thompson stars and co-wrote the story.
Yep.
And then you've got the love interest from Crazy Rich Asians, whose name I don't remember, Henry something. And then you've got Emilia Clarke. And then you got the music of George Michael.
Yes.
So, have you seen the trailer for this?
Yes.
I haven't.
Yes.
So I'm wondering...
I've also heard the new song.
Oh, there's a new song? Okay, don't tell me.
Yeah, there's a new George Michael song.
A new George Michael song?
I think obviously he didn't record it after his death, but
Yeah.
it was found in the archives or something, and so they've released it specifically for this film.
Oh God, that's a bit weird. That's like when they're now, the way they're using dead actors to act like James
CGI.
Dean's going to be
Maybe
in
George
anything.
Michael will be in it then, who knows?
Oh God! And I haven't seen a trailer for it, but I'm hoping the plot is actually Last Christmas.
I Gave You My Heart.
Yeah, I hope that's the plot.
Well, if there's a ski lodge, I'll be happy.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Yes.
Alright, okay, we're going to go to the cinema now, and we're back actually in Richmond where the cinema began.
Very nice place.
Yeah, about the first probably at least 50 episodes of our podcast were recorded here, so I'm feeling very nostalgic. Graeme, you'll notice they've got signposts everywhere marking where the cinema began.
Of course, blue plaques, brown plaques, you name it.
Alright, okay, bye!
Bye!
Last Christmas.
Here we are.
Is this the bit where you murder me?
So what is it that you do?
I sing.
Oh, that's amazing.
Anyway, boring.
I'm not bored.
You are so strange. Where are you going?
Why there?
Well, you're not homeless.
No, I volunteer here.
Why didn't you just get Satan tattooed on your forehead?
You were great at your job when you started, but now it's like you don't care anymore.
Hi. Hi.
Can I help?
I'm a mess. I was really sick and I nearly died. I don't tell people because they get weird, but I don't think you'll get weird.
No.
I'm just scared all the time. They just expect me to be normal and get on with life.
There's no such thing as normal. Just being a human being is hard.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Okay, so for the first 2/3 I was like, okay, this is really bad, like this is one of the worst movies I've seen in years. And then the last act happened and I was like, oh my God, this is one of the worst movies I've ever seen.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm not averse to really crap films, but this was beyond. I'm the person who spent 3 days subtitling Christmas with the Cranks, and I think I'd rather watch that again than watch that.
What do you think, like, the top line thoughts on this, and before we get to spoiler street?
Cloying, but incredibly unsubtle, sentimental to the point of nausea, not becoming of a Dame. I'm quite disappointed in Dame Emma Thompson, I have to say.
Yeah, I'm shocked.
Yeah, it was really, really bad.
Yeah.
It was like every single Christmas film cliche. They made a list and ticked them all off, Santa style, and it was terrible. I mean, I don't understand why they thought it would be a good idea to make a George Michael themed Christmas film again, which was just really shoehorning every last thing into the film. It just wasn't successful.
The George Michael thing was, Graeme and I are both huge fans of Mamma Mia, by the way. Graeme more so than I. That's how you integrate music into a film.
Yeah.
This is just playing George Michael songs.
It felt very much that they'd seen the successive jukebox musical films and thought, oh, I know, let's make a George Michael one now that he's dead, No, really not good at all.
And it's interesting that you say you think it tried to tick all the Christmas movie elements, because I think it actually didn't. Because for me, a traditional Christmas movie, you have a sense of time. Like, you usually know at what point in the month of December it is. You're building up to some sort of Christmas event. It feels like it's set at Christmas. This felt like it was just set in a Christmas novelty shop and could have taken place at any point in the year.
Yeah.
There was nothing exterior telling us it was Christmas.
That's a fair point, because at one point in the film, no spoilers, there is an event that is in the lead up to Christmas, and you think, gosh, I thought it was that time of year already.
Yeah, like the timeline made no sense, because there were certain relationships and that felt like they were kind of progressing over a couple of months.
Yes.
And then there was someone who was pregnant who then suddenly had a baby, so that I couldn't make sense of the timeline. But really, I felt like it, and this is what shocks me, because obviously we know Emma Thompson co-wrote the story and the script, and she is an Oscar winner. This was one of the worst scripts I've seen in a long time.
Double Oscar winner, the only person I believe to win an Oscar for acting and writing. For Sense and Sensibility, showing the actor they got Oscar for writing, and this was dreadful.
Yeah.
Every single cliche, the dialogue was completely unbelievable.
Dialogue was awful.
No one talks like that.
No.
I mean, it was just absurd.
And the dialogue was bad, but the story
was
really bad.
I'm not even sure I knew what the story was. I mean, it was grasping at some kind of plot, but it was just so bad. Really, really bad.
And it was like, okay, I don't think it was any of the actors' faults, but I mean, they were given nothing to do with, but there was no single good moment of acting either.
They were brave and valiant. I mean, I think the star of the show was probably her expressive eyebrows, Amelia Clark, because that was just overshadowing everything else. And when that's the summary that you take away, then that's not particularly a sign of a great film, is it?
No, and they really, and again, we're not on spoilers yet, but they really try to do something at the end of the movie with like a big Christmas moment that in a movie like Love Actually, which it was clearly trying to ape in that moment, really brings loads of strands together, and you feel festive, and you feel like this is warranted, and you come on a journey with all these characters, and you do. This kind of thing I tend to cry at, but this, I was like, what a cynical hack job.
It was the most self-congratulatory moment of the entire film. It was as if to say, aren't we good? Isn't this really worthy?
We've shoehorned Last Christmas in again.
It was dreadful.
We won't speak to the plot of the film because I don't want to actually spoil anything, but. And it's hard to speak to without the plot of the film, really. But on a mild note, I would say the two romantic leads had zero chemistry.
Completely agree.
Like brother and sister kind of level chemistry. One of the worst performances I've ever seen from Emma Thompson, and I don't say that lightly because I love her. And I just watched her in Late Night last week, which I thought she was impeccable in.
She's a great actress, a really sensitive actress, and I think she did. I don't understand, because she obviously wrote it. So
she stamped all over it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of her kind of humour if you watch her in interviews or whatever. There's quite the wry, English arched eyebrow humour, but it just didn't translate to a script. I think the lack of plot was the really problematic thing here. I mean, I think it's interesting that she won the writing Oscar for Sensibility, so the story was already there. It was just the writing, as it were. Maybe that was the downfall. And she did it with her husband as well, didn't she? Did
she? I don't know.
Greg Wise was the co-writer.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh,
so,
God.
Yeah, I know. It was
I
very, very self-congratulatory.
I don't ever want to, trash a husband and wife duo, because, I've lived by that.
On brand.
Yeah, oh, God.
I have no problems trashing a husband and wife duo, just for the sake of the record.
I feel bad. I almost, when I was watching it, did you ever see someone do something really bad, they're bad at a performer, or they're bad at giving a presentation, and you feel very empathetic and you cringe for them?
Yes.
I was cringing watching this movie.
I was cringing, but I had no empathy because it was just so friggin'... I mean, I don't want to give any spoilers at this stage, but it was so worthy.
They got it so wrong.
Yeah.
Like, you've got Emma Thompson, right? You've got Emilia Clarke, fresh off the back of the biggest TV show of all time.
Yep.
You've got Henry, whose surname I forget, Golding maybe, from Crazy Rich Asians. You've got Michelle Yeoh, who plays his mom in Crazy Rich Asians.
All right.
So to me, it was quite stunt casting to have them both in it, to be honest.
Interesting.
And then obviously Emma Thompson, the whole of Actually thing. So it just felt like it was just trying to ape. It was trying to recapture something with that cast, but like none of them worked together.
Yes, it was grasping very much for the whole, Britishness and London particularly. That London was probably one of the biggest characters in the movie almost. And I mean, I've never seen London looking as beautiful as it did in that film. You know, it was festooned with lights everywhere. It was just London in inverted commas. It was very much chocolate box style.
And it was as well. There was another thing that didn't quite make sense. And again, no spoilers, but where somebody gets involved with a charity and they build up this huge kind of family and like repertoire with all these people and repartee with all these people, and this big event happens and they're all like best friends and they raise all this money, and I'm like, wait, is this taking place over like a week? Like, I didn't understand.
Oh god.
But I think we can't talk about this movie without going to Spoiler Street, really.
Let's do it.
So don't listen to Spoiler Street, okay, if you've not seen this movie, because there's a massive spoiler coming. Okay, so you've been duly warned. Right before the third act happened, I actually turned to Graeme, there's nobody near us, and said, why is this called Last Christmas?
Yeah.
And then turns out what they did is they took the song Last Christmas and they said, what's the chorus? Last Christmas, I gave you my heart. How could we make that into a movie plot? Oh yes, and earlier on in the movie, I swear to God, I had thought, is he a ghost? Because why does he only appear at night, and why is he so weird?
Oh God.
Yeah, so the love interest was a ghost.
Yes, who, can I give the full spoiler?
Go for it.
The ghost of the person, the leading character, Emilia Clarke, she had a heart transplant the year before, last Christmas. The ghost was the person whose heart was donated to save her life. So it was the worst kind of trope. It's always, because she's a bit of a dishevelled, disreputable party animal, no job, no home. It's that classic trope of a man saving a woman from a life of disrepute, and in literal sense. So I mean, it was just cloying on all levels.
It was so, and a part of it made me think, oh, maybe that's why they've no chemistry, because he's like her benefactor, like / mentor.
Yes.
But then the movie, like when that happened, I mean, we were literally gasping and like clutching at each other, like, I cannot believe this is happening. And then the movie's like, okay, we've dealt with that now. She was haunted.
Yeah, and then, now she's had that moment and her life's on track again. So much so at the end of the movie, after the big performance, she's had a haircut, she's smartly dressed, she doesn't look as bad as she did.
Yeah, and it's 2 weeks
unbelievable.
later.
It's just unbelievable, as if her life's been changed by this man, and it was really lazy.
It was bizarre. And then at the end, they do this thing where they, like, out of nowhere, right? So bring everyone together who's been in the movie. So, for example, her sister, who is gay, Emilia Clarke, outs her at the dinner table, which is quite an obnoxious thing to do. At the end, the sister's just there with her girlfriend, like all has been forgiven.
Yeah.
Even though presumably the parents were really homophobic or something.
That was the implication, wasn't it?
Yeah. And then, like, every single person we've met throughout the course of the movie is at this big nativity homeless event, including, like, the estate agent who showed her around an apartment.
Oh yeah, the apartment of the man who died.
Yeah,
the heart donor.
And so the guy who died, turns out he died because he was like a bicycle courier. He got run over, right? Now, but how she finds out that he died is because she finds a year later his phone locked away in a kitchen cupboard, and he said his phone had been in a cupboard.
Yeah.
Now, what sort of a bicycle courier is driving around at night without a phone? Unpick the logistics. They get their jobs through phone apps. Right?
Yeah.
So what's he doing cycling around with no phone?
But also, let's not forget that he worked for the homeless charities while he volunteered to help people, and the whole spiel at the end was about how our life only has meaning through helping others. And there was a tiny bit about Brexit shoehorned in there as well. It was all very...
And it was all over the place.
Unsubtle.
Now, though, to be fair, I did appreciate at least the fact that in a mainstream movie they're trying to address racism in modern day Britain. So I appreciated the sentiment, but not the execution.
But there's a moment in the film where... they work for the homeless charity. One of the homeless people was talking about how, it's typical middle class girl trying to make good and, just doing her bit. That was I think it was always meta in the sense of not apologising, but justifying the film. Emma Thompson and Greg Wise are quite famously, left wing, as am I. But there was an element of saying, yes, we are that kind of thing. This is what the film's about. It's about being slightly political with a small p, being slightly anti-Brexit, being slightly more, we should love each other more, we should be more inclusive.
And then they really tried, though, to go against that. I think they were trying to go very much against the Richard Curtis middle class thing, because they were actually all quite working class. The main characters are posited to be such. Like, her parents were immigrants. They lived in this tiny little 2-bed house. Her dad was like a cabbie.
But that's the thing, you see, I think, because we know that Emma Thompson isn't working class. And she's very quite, she's British English establishment. It could feel a little patronising for her to adopt the character of someone who isn't that.
And she was like playing someone who was she Croatian?
I think former Yugoslav Republic, wasn't it? They'd been involved in the war and they had to migrate to the UK.
Yeah, and I found it odd watching her, because you're so used to her doing the same accent. It was odd watching her with a different accent, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the accent was fairly convincing for what it was, but I just felt it was very formulaic almost, and there was an element of being patronised.
Yeah, for sure. It's been such a mess. I'm struggling with this chat to even kind of formulate. Like, normally I can formulate, specific points I want to talk to on a movie. But this one, aside from it, and it blatantly didn't feel like it was set at Christmas, which I think is one of my biggest issues. It did not feel like a Christmas movie. It didn't feel evocative of Christmas. And I think in part it's because they were so busy shoehorning random George Michael songs in.
Yeah.
That it just felt,
and it's
frankly, bizarre.
Because visually it was quite a Christmas assault. There were so many decorations, so many lights. Everywhere you turn, I mean, there was places decorated that would never be decorated.
Yeah.
Like this park in the middle of nowhere where all the druggies hang out.
And then
Christmas, pardon my language, with Christmas lights everywhere, it just doesn't work.
And also, though, because she worked in this Christmas shop all year round, apparently. For a while, I thought it wasn't even Christmas. I thought she was just working there. But yeah, it didn't have. It didn't feel festive, and I wonder in part is because it didn't have any Christmas music except for Last Christmas, and then she did a couple of little bits when she was busking.
But even then, I think we heard Last Christmas many, many times, but there was only one time we heard it in the original version. We heard it through, she sang it at the end. There was an animatronic gibbon who sang it at one point, which was they were trying so hard to make into a family-friendly joke, but ultimately just fell really flat. Also, her boss. This random subplot with this man who's very famous in Scandi drama. He was, Lars Mikkelsen in The Borgen, which I absolutely love, and he let himself play this dreadful one-dimensional character whose only standing out point was the fact that he was obsessed with sauerkraut. I mean, that was ridiculous.
So weird. And again, they're the couple that I was like, I don't understand the timeline of this relationship, because they seem to be like in love by the end. I kind of felt like they were trying to ape the Colin Firth plot from Love Actually, where him and that woman kind of fall in love and they can't speak the same language. I don't know, it was bizarre. I didn't understand also with Emilia Clarke's character why she worked in the shop. Like, none of it made sense.
Yes, because she was, the typical aspiring actress, aspiring performer, and she got her moment on stage at the end, But because it wasn't her doing it in the commercial sense, it was her being altruistic and doing it for a benefit concert. She got that moment, but she found the motivation wasn't selfish.
Yeah.
So it was that redemption through her dream almost.
And she was quite awful for a while, like the way she was using her friends, and there was some odd elements in the movie as well that I don't know if it was like a joke, but they were calling Tinder Swiper. That
was obviously probably trademark, innit?
I don't think so, though.
Really?
I think you can mention the name of a product in a movie. Yeah, so I literally did not know why they were calling it Swiper, and I almost felt like it was like a bit of an out-of-touch joke that like Emma Thompson and her husband had written.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. That's the whole thing. These are two quite, well-on, well-off people trying to make a film that resonates, and it just didn't. It fell flat in every way.
And the guy from Crazy Rich Asians, Henry Golding, again, don't quote me on that name, he was so dull in this.
None of them had any formed characters.
No.
Not one character was likeable. Literally not one.
No.
And that's quite unusual, and
it's
quite an achievement in a way, isn't it, for goodness sake?
And it's also like, not only are they not likeable, but they're not interesting. Like, as a lead character, I didn't care to follow Emilia Clarke. I didn't care about her journey.
Yeah.
I didn't care if she became a singer.
She's also quite bratty, she was rebelling ostensibly against her parents, but the parents aren't that bad.
The parents are fine. They're like nice, hard-working people. Fine, her mum was a bit annoying.
Yeah, but that's it, a bit annoying. It's not as if she was Mummy Dearest.
Do you think that it was a bit like OTT as well? Like, they kind of, throughout the movie, they kept teasing to us that at various points Emilia Clarke had been unwell, and there was this big reveal. And in the end, all the reveal was, and I am not diminishing a heart transplant in any way, but the big reveal was that she'd had a heart transplant.
I think...
I thought it was going to be that she'd had some sort of breakdown, or...
Yeah, or if she had something terminal and died at the end, I would have preferred that ending, to be honest. At least it would have felt neater.
Did you ever see the movie, it was reminding me towards the end, that had Minnie Driver and David Duchovny?
No.
And I think, but do not quote me on the name, it was called something like Where the Heart Is.
Oh, for goodness
And basically,
sake.
David Duchovny's wife had died, and sorry, spoilers now for this David Duchovny Minnie Driver in a movie from the 90s, and
it could only be with those two stars.
And his wife had died, right, and it was a couple of years later, and him and Minnie Driver fall in love, and then turns out that Minnie Driver had a heart transplant from his wife. And I was like, oh my god, I can't believe I'm watching like a version.
So even if a version of this hackneyed story has already been done with David Duchovny and Minnie Driver, like I say, it's not befitting of a dame. I'm disappointed.
I'm like, I can't overstate this. I'm shocked Emma Thompson had anything to do with this movie.
I don't understand it. I mean, I know that she's quite a politically aware person and she'd want to make a position about Brexit clear, even though it's quite clear anyway.
Yeah.
Her position it's also looking at the whole nature of Christmas movies about togetherness and embracing each other. And
but you could do that in a good movie, though.
You could do it. I'd rather she just wrote an essay, to be honest.
Yeah.
It would be more interesting and certainly more compelling than what we've just endured.
And then it's like we haven't even... this is bizarre to me. We haven't even discussed the fact that Paul Feig directed it. Mm-hmm. Director of Bridesmaids.
Mm-hmm.
I saw no directorial stamp on this. Like, this to me felt like it could have been written and directed by no shade, I love the Hallmark Channel, but it felt like... I think the reason I was like, this is one of the worst movies I've seen in years, or that I've ever seen, I meant in the cinema.
Yeah.
Like, it's a TV movie.
It's been heavily promoted, heavily publicised, heavily trailed, and I don't really understand. Again, when I was a subtitle, I subtitled a film called A Carol Christmas with Tori Spelling playing a version of the Christmas Carol.
Oh my god, I've seen that.
Yeah. And
I enjoyed that.
It was better than this, because at least it was open in the fact that it was rubbish, whereas this is... I just don't understand. I mean, someone obviously had, I know, this is a great idea, last Christmas I gave you my heart, ha.
Yeah, because apparently Emma Thompson saw like permission from George Michael before he passed away and he agreed, and I'm like, I'm sure he didn't sign off on this script. I mean, to say I want to use your songs to inspire a movie is one thing, but to put them in this is like disrespectful.
One song inspired the movie.
Yeah.
And the rest of them were just shoehorned in, weren't they?
Yeah, they should have just used that song, frankly, and then just used standard Christmas music.
Yeah. It was a missed opportunity, I think.
What else can we talk about? I feel like I can't even, like, the twist is so shocking when it happens. They literally do this, like, you shouldn't be listening past Spoiler Street, but I know some people do. They do this whole montage where it's like, oh my god, remember every time we saw them together in the movie, he wasn't really there. And this bench they always see each other on, I was like, please don't let that bench have his name on it. And it did. Yeah. And then it was like, oh my god, last Christmas I gave you my heart. It's like, we could not get this anymore. It was just truly mind-bogglingly bad.
It also felt like it should have ended at least 3 times. You know, there was it was limping on and on. And there was a really climactic performance. Also in the audience as a cameo, there was 2 people that I don't know if you clocked. There was Andrew Ridgeley singing along, who's Wham, George Michael's musical partner.
I was like, who are they zooming in on?
And there was also Greg Wise,
who is
Emma Thompson's wife and co-writer. Emma Thompson's husband, rather.
I was wondering why, because I was like, okay, they're zooming in on the estate agent, which I don't get. They're zooming in on the clown that works outside the shop Emilia Clarke works in. And again, how did she rally the troops for this huge fundraiser within the space of like a week? And
she brought her family back together. She managed to out her sister and embrace her girlfriend in the family. It's the Christmas miracle. And like, they all have this, okay, presuming, and we don't quite know the date, but presuming it was set from the 1st of December maybe end of November. In that space of time, she's gone from absolutely loathing and despising her family to the point where she won't speak to them, to them all having this wonderful Christmas dinner together where they're like dancing and singing around the Christmas table. As we say, she's outed her sister and caused her sister's sexuality to be embraced by this reserved family. She's brought her mum back to life by letting her organise this wonderful Christmas festivity. It's like, what? Like, so unearned. And it just doesn't make any sense. No. Because it's never really clear what her background is, other than the fact she's had a heart transplant and she's a failed, aspiring musician. And there was that really weird scene, and I did get it after the twist, where she goes back to the love interest's flat, and she kind of lies in his lap and just has a moan and cries about her life and her heart. And I was like, this feels
looks very odd as a romantic scene, so I think they actually did so that actually it wasn't romantic.
Yes, because the intimacy that they achieved was through him touching her scar, which out of context is a little bit odd.
Yeah.
But now that, you can see it's a kind of a meta thing.
And so maybe actually the fact that they didn't have chemistry at all was intentional.
But don't you think it encapsulates the whole film, the fact that she's basically having a love affair with part of herself? Yeah. And the end of the film is so self-congratulatory. You've got the writers of the film looking at the stage and, wow, didn't we do well?
Yeah,
it's
you're
just
right.
encapsulates everything about the film. It's so worthy.
It's so funny because like we are prime, like we'd watch any of this kind of shit. So the fact that we're like,
I was genuinely excited for this.
Yeah, the first couple of minutes as well. As soon as the first couple of minutes,
the writing was on the wall.
Yeah, it was too often. Like when you've not a single good line of dialogue, you've got an annoying. I hate these heroines who are like, oh, I'm so klutzy, I'm so ditzy, I'm such a mess, oh my god, I can't manage my life. And that's kind of where you're starting off from.
Yeah.
And it's all downhill from there. This stupid scene where she like sleeps with the guy, his girlfriend shows up the next day, she gets kicked out of the house, her hair's wet, she's not dressed properly. It's like, oh no.
Yeah, because not only does it buy into the whole redemption through man thing, it's also the virgin whore complex, which is really disappointing from Emma Thompson.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be like that.
No.
I would have preferred it if she'd stayed dishevelled and disrepute. I think it would have been much more entertaining.
Yeah, I mean, stay on Swiper, girl, you're enjoying that app. And then she like leaves the door open of her shop and the shop gets broken into, blah blah blah.
But then she gets a second chance anyway, even though her boss has had to engineer a break-in to save her ass. It's such a lot of rubbish, pardon my language.
Yeah, no, you could curse on this podcast.
Oh good, that's good.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, Graeme's another friend who casually asked me to go to the cinema. I say only if you come on my podcast, which he's never listened to.
Well, it's like Cathy used to be my boss, you see, so it's like having the voice of my boss in my ear, which is a little much.
No, it's fun. When I invite friends on, they always, like, more often than not have not listened, which is quite funny.
But I was saying to Cathy, I'm so glad that it was a film I disliked, because it's so much more fun to eviscerate a film.
Can you think, like, the way we had read the Guardian review last week and kind of had a bit of a laugh over it, and we thought that they were just being a bit mean for the sake of being mean. I think they were being generous now.
I remember it got 1 star.
Oh, I thought it got 2.
Was it 2?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd give it 1.
Yeah.
Because of the talent involved. I think if this is, as I said, if this is a TV movie, they've chucked it out for,
if it was
not
on
very
ITV
much money.
on Boxing Day or something, you'd expect something like this.
Like, the budget that must have gone into this, like, Emilia Clarke must be really expensive. Emma Thompson clearly would cost a fortune. The guy who's now been in Crazy Rich Asians, which is like the most successful rom-com of the decade, that's big money.
Yeah, and there's a few of the bit part characters, well-known actors as well from the old days. Like a couple of the homeless guys were bit part characters from the 80s and 90s.
And they even had, like Sue Perkins and Rob Delaney and, like, decent cameo. But their cameos were terrible as well. Sue Perkins was particularly bad.
She was dreadful.
Yeah, and again, I don't think it's any of their fault.
Peter Serafinowicz as well. I mean, he played the Simon Cowell-style judge in the audition where she was late.
Oh, I was trying to figure
out. I mean, he's a really,
was.
really good actor, right? And he was really bad.
Yeah, it's like...
But you can't work with bad dialogue, can you? If you're limited to what the dialogue is, I guess.
But the Paul Feig thing, it was so interesting because it's stamped all over the credits. This is a Paul Feig production, this is a Paul Feig movie.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, I didn't see any of that because he's a comedic director. And there was no comedy. One thing that was quite startling, because there was probably about 25 people in our audience, there was no laughter.
Yeah, I can't remember anything that made me giggle, laugh out loud.
What made us laugh was the twist. We were laughing at the twist.
Laughing
but you
at the
could have
wrong
heard a
point.
pin drop in the comedic. I say comedic with brackets there, or inverted commas.
That's it. I mean, it was this toy McGibbon.
Yeah.
Lol. I mean, come on.
There was no laughter. You could have heard a pin drop in the cinema. It's like quite something. And I think, what this movie, like, the way when you make a movie or a song that's Christmas themed, you just get in a rotation every year. This movie doesn't deserve to be in that rotation.
No, it really doesn't.
No,
and on paper it should have been.
But there is such a gap in the market, and it's something we talk about a lot in this podcast, like in terms of romantic comedies and, lower to mid budget movies that are relatively small stories, family movies. There is such a gap in the market that I can see this is meeting that need. Like, we've gone to see it.
But I just wonder if it hadn't had Emma Thompson and Greg Wise attached to it, hadn't had Paul Feig attached to it, how would it have been picked up? Because
it couldn't have been.
It was, on paper, the script alone is bad.
Yeah.
So
I'd say it was just commissioned purely because of the Emma Thompson thing.
Which is not the way it should work either.
And that's probably why Emilia Clarke would have signed up for the script, because Emma Thompson wrote it. Sure,
Star
of course.
power, yeah.
I'll star in a movie Emma Thompson wrote, and I get her, and she plays my mom. Yes, hells yes. And then did you watch Fleabag?
I've seen a couple of episodes, yeah.
It felt like the sister was them trying to kind of copy the sister in Fleabag as well.
I can see what you mean.
Yeah, so it was all a bit...
Everyone was very much
so derivative.
Reminded me of someone else.
Yeah, the whole thing was derivative.
Not done as well.
No. But yeah, astounded. I really want people to tell us what they thought of the twist. And it's funny that Sophie we work with said, "Oh, bring tissues," because I'll cry at anything, and I was like a stone face.
No, I would cry at an Argos advert, literally, and this was not moving me at all.
No, and I found it quite sickly at the end. Really, I just thought you were just overtly trying to manipulate us to cry.
I mean, we always knew the end would be some kind of ensemble piece. That was clear, but to have it with that twist.
Yeah,
it just didn't work for me at all.
The twist was a B-movie twist.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? With an A-list cast.
Yep.
Yeah.
Emma Thompson in Hallmark movies Last Christmas.
But it was funny because while I was getting, the longer the movie went on, because it said it was set in 2017, which I think they did deliberately to mislead us, because then, of course, I thought it was going to be Christmas 2018 or 19, and they'd be looking back to Last Christmas. So as the movie went on and on and on, I was genuinely like, but when are they going to skip to next Christmas? So I don't know if they did that to like make it
I think
more
also,
of a twist.
yeah, because as well at the start of the film they were talking as if George Michael was still alive, and I can't remember when he died. It was around Christmas time. It was Boxing Day, I think.
Oh, maybe that's why they said it then.
Yeah, I think it was either 2016 or 2017.
Yeah, so that was all just frankly bizarre. So I literally spent half the movie going, but why is it still this Christmas, and why is this Christmas taking 8 weeks?
Last Christmas I Gave You My Heart. It's a great song, but if you want to make a Christmas film out of it, honestly, anyone could do a better job than that. To go with the most obvious line, I know, we'll give him a heart transplant.
Yeah, and when it happened, it was like, dear God. Like, because earlier on I thought, could he be a ghost? And then I thought, well, obviously not, because this is not a shit movie. Like, it's not that shit a movie.
Au contraire.
Yeah, anyway, Graeme, thank you so much for coming on.
Pleasure, it's been fun.
You're going to have to listen to the podcast now you've been on it.
I can't listen to my own voice, and apologies to everyone who's enjoyed it today.
Well, I tell you where you could find the Cinemile if you were interested in looking for it.
That would be nice.
You could find us on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter at the Cinemile. You could subscribe to us on iTunes, and you could even leave us a 5-star review.
But are you on Swiper?
We are on Swiper,
I should think so.
So you can find us there too. And thank you for everyone who listened, who enjoyed the movie. And if you are interested in supporting a really good Christmas campaign, Dave and I are donating all of our December Patreon contributions to Action for Children, which is a wonderful charity. So if you sign up to our Patreon, which is patreon.com/thecinemile, before the end of November, your December contribution will go straight to Action for Children, which is a wonderful charity, and then you can cancel before the end of December, not pay us any more money, and your money will have gone to charity. You'll have received access to over 20 bonus episodes of film and TV reviews, and your money will have gone to a good cause. Graeme, thanks very much.
Thank you, pleasure.
Bye.
Deck the halls with boughs of holly, fa la 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 la. 'Tis the season to be jolly.
Oh boy.
Acast powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
I'm Jessie Cruikshank, and I've always been told I have a face for podcasting. So I launched a podcast. It's called Phone a Friend because each week I'll break down the biggest stories in pop culture. But when I have questions, I get to phone a friend. I'll phone a royal watcher to find out why Prince Harry is acting like a real housewife. I'll phone a tween to please explain Euphoria. And maybe I'll even phone a Backstreet Boy to find out if I still have a chance. I don't? Okay. New episodes drop every Thursday wherever you get your podcasts.
Acast helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.